Chosen one, there's a moment in every testing story that changes everything. It's the moment after the test is over, after the pressure releases, after the confusion clears. The moment when heaven says, "You passed. And now I can tell you what this was really about." You're in that moment right now. I know you've been wondering. I know there were nights when you questioned if you were failing or succeeding, breaking or being refined. I know you replayed moments, analyzing where you could have done better. But here's what heaven is declaring over you in this moment. You passed. Not conditionally, not barely. You passed in a way that fundamentally transformed who you are. And because you passed, there's something that needs to happen. Something that only happens on this side of the test. Heaven pulling back the curtain, the comprehensive explanation, the moment where everything that seemed random reveals itself to be intentional. See, most people who go through testing seasons never get this conversation. They either quit before completion, or they finish without understanding what just happened to them. But you're different. You stayed when staying required everything. You surrendered when control seemed safer. You trusted when darkness was thick. And now there's a download available to you that wasn't available before. What I'm about to share unfolds in 4 revelations. Each one builds on the last. Each truth prepares you for the bigger truth. The first will show you what passing actually means. The second will reveal what was really being measured in you. The third will help you see who you've become through this process. And the fourth will transform everything you thought you understood about your assignment. This isn't generic encouragement. This is the specific briefing that only makes sense after you've lived it. The revelation that biblical heroes discovered on the other side of their tests. Abraham after the mountain, Joseph after the prison, David after the running. The same pattern playing out in your life. You passed something significant, chosen one. You're not the same person who entered that test. And what I'm about to show you will help you understand not just what you went through, but why it matters, who you are now, and what you're stepping into. The curtain is being pulled back today. Stay with me. Let these truths land, because everything is about to make sense. Let me start with the first truth, the one that reframes everything. Most people think passing a test is about performance, about doing everything right, about never stumbling, never doubting, never questioning. They think passing means you sailed through with perfect faith and flawless execution. That's not what passing means in the kingdom. In God's economy, passing isn't about performance, it's about transformation. It's not about what you did during the test. It's about who you became through it. Let me show you the difference. Performance is about execution, checking boxes, completing tasks correctly. It's external, it's measurable, it's about behavior. Transformation is different. Transformation is internal. It's about becoming someone fundamentally different than who you were before. It's about character shifts that can't be faked. It's about capacity that can only be built through pressure. And here's what you need to understand. God doesn't test your performance. He already knows what you're capable of. He tests whether you'll allow transformation to happen, whether you'll stay in the fire long enough to let it refine you, whether you'll surrender control long enough to let Him reshape you. Think about it. When God tested Abraham, it wasn't about whether Abraham could physically lift the knife. It was about whether Abraham's trust in God had become deeper than his attachment to the promise. The test transformed Abraham from someone who believed God's promises into someone who trusted God's character, even when the promises seemed to contradict. When God allowed David to run from Saul for years, it wasn't about David's survival skills. It was about transforming David from a talented musician into a king who understood both suffering and mercy. The wilderness didn't test David's ability to hide. It transformed his heart. When Paul spent 3 years in Arabia after his Damascus Road encounter, God wasn't testing whether Paul could memorize Scripture. Paul already knew Scripture. Those years transformed Paul from a persecutor who knew about God into an apostle who knew God intimately. Do you see the pattern? The test is always about transformation. And if you stayed in your test, if you didn't quit when quitting would have been easier, if you allowed the pressure to refine you instead of running from it, then you passed. Not because you did everything perfectly, but because you allowed something to change in you that couldn't have changed any other way. The Apostle Paul said it like this in Romans chapter 5. We can rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame. Notice the progression. Suffering doesn't directly produce hope. It produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope. It's a transformation sequence. Each stage builds on the last. And you can't skip stages. You had to suffer to develop perseverance. You had to persevere to build character. You had to build character to arrive at unshakable hope. And if you're watching this video right now, that transformation happened in you. The sequence completed. You passed, chosen one. Not because you performed flawlessly, but because you transformed genuinely. Now, before I show you the next revelation, I need you to understand something. What you're about to receive over the course of this video isn't surface level. By the time we're done, you're going to have complete clarity on what your test was measuring, who you've become through it, and what you're now authorized to carry. You're going to understand your assignment at a depth you've never had before. But only if you stay to the end. Only if you let all 4 revelations build on each other. Each piece matters. Each truth unlocks the next one. So don't leave early. Don't assume you already know what's coming. Stay with me through all 4 revelations, because the 4th one is going to change everything. Now, let me show you how to recognize that transformation happened in you. Let me give you the specific signs that you actually passed. The first sign is this. You didn't quit, even when quitting made perfect sense. I'm not talking about having thoughts of quitting. Everyone has those thoughts. I'm talking about the moment when quitting was the most logical option, when every rational voice said walk away, when staying would cost you everything, and you chose to stay anyway. Maybe you were alone in your room at 2 in the morning, tears streaming down your face, every fiber of your being screaming to give up. But something in you whispered, stay. And you did. That's not performance, that's transformation. Something in you became stronger than your pain. The second sign, you kept choosing God when He felt distant. This is huge. It's easy to choose God when you feel His presence. It's transformation when you choose Him in the silence, when heaven felt closed, when your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling, when other people were posting about their breakthroughs and you were still in the dark. You could have grown bitter. You could have walked away, but you kept showing up. You kept choosing to trust even when you couldn't trace Him. That proves transformation. Your faith became anchored in His character, not His proximity. The third sign, you stayed surrendered when control was tempting. Remember those moments when you could have manipulated the situation, when you could have forced an outcome, when you could have taken matters into your own hands and made something happen. But you didn't. You stayed surrendered You kept your hands open. You refused to grab control, even when control seemed smarter than trust. That's transformation. You became someone who values God's will more than your own comfort. The fourth sign. You chose integrity in the hidden places. Nobody was watching. Nobody would have known. You could have compromised. You could have taken the shortcut. You could have justified it because of what you were going through. But you didn't. In the secret moments, when it was just you and God, you chose integrity. You chose to honor Him even when it cost you. That's character transformation. You became someone who does right because of who you are, not because of who's watching. The fifth sign. You stewarded your heart, even in pain. You didn't let bitterness take root. You didn't let resentment poison you. You didn't let the test make you cynical or hard. You stayed soft toward God. You kept your heart open even when it ached. You protected your inner world even when your outer world was falling apart. That's deep transformation. You became someone who guards their heart as a source of life, not as a defense mechanism. The sixth sign. You remained teachable through confusion. You didn't pretend to have all the answers. You didn't harden into false certainty. You stayed humble. You stayed curious. You let the test ask you questions instead of demanding the test give you answers. You became a student of the process instead of a victim of it. That's transformation. You became someone who learns from mystery instead of resenting it. And the seventh sign. You served others even while wounded. This is the one that proves transformation most clearly. You were hurting. You were going through your own trial. But when someone else needed help, you showed up. You didn't use your pain as an excuse to withdraw from love. You kept giving even when your tank felt empty. You became a wounded healer, someone who serves from scars, not just from strength. If you recognize yourself in these signs, then hear me clearly. You passed. The transformation happened. It's not about whether you feel transformed. Feelings follow truth. The truth is, you're different now. Something shifted in you that's permanent. You built spiritual muscle that can't be unbuilt. You developed capacity that's now part of who you are. And that's just the first revelation. That's just the foundation. Because now we need to go deeper. Now I need to show you what the test was actually measuring. Because it wasn't just measuring whether you'd transform. It was measuring something specific, something strategic, something directly connected to your assignment. That's the second revelation. And it's going to reframe everything you thought you understood about why the test was so intense. Here's what the test was measuring. And this is going to shift how you see everything you went through. The test wasn't measuring whether you were worthy. God already settled that question before the foundation of the world. The test wasn't measuring whether you were called. That was determined before you took your first breath. The test was measuring something entirely different. It was measuring your capacity for the next assignment. Let me explain what I mean. God doesn't test to see if you're ready. He tests to make you ready. The test itself builds the capacity you'll need for what's coming. It's not pass-fail in the traditional sense. It's formation, it's expansion. It's the stretching of your spiritual container so it can hold what He's about to pour into it. Think about it like this. If I asked you to carry 10 pounds, you could do it easily. If I asked you to carry 50 pounds, you'd manage, but feel the strain. But if I asked you to carry 200 pounds, your body couldn't handle it. Not because you're weak, but because you haven't built the capacity yet. Capacity isn't about worthiness, it's about readiness. And readiness isn't given, it's built through pressure, built through resistance, built through carrying weight that feels like too much until your muscles adapt and what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. That's what the test did. It built capacity in you, spiritual capacity, emotional capacity, mental capacity, the kind of capacity that can't be taught in a classroom or downloaded through prayer. It has to be formed through lived experience, through pressure that feels unbearable until you bear it, through mystery that feels intolerable until you tolerate it, through isolation that feels unsustainable until you sustain it. And here's the part that changes everything. The intensity of your test directly corresponded to the magnitude of your assignment. I need you to hear that again. The intensity of your test directly corresponded to the magnitude of your assignment. If your test felt brutal, it's because your assignment requires brutal capacity. If your test felt endless, it's because your assignment requires endurance most people never develop. If your test felt isolating beyond measure, it's because your assignment will require you to stand alone when standing alone is the only option. God wasn't being cruel. He was being strategic. He was building in you exactly what you'll need for exactly what He's releasing you into. The Apostle Paul understood this. He wrote about it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. He said, "Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Notice the word achieving, not enduring, not surviving, achieving. The trouble itself was accomplishing something, building something, creating capacity for glory that couldn't exist without the weight of the trouble first expanding the vessel. Paul called his troubles light and momentary. The man was beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, stoned, and left for dead. Those troubles weren't light, but compared to the weight of glory they were producing in him, compared to the capacity they were building, compared to the assignment they were preparing him for, they became light by comparison. Your test felt heavy, chosen one. I'm not minimizing that, but what it was building in you, the capacity it was forming, the assignment it was preparing you for, that weight of glory is going to make the test feel light in retrospect. So, what specifically was being measured? What capacities were being built? Let me show you 3 core capacities that your test developed in you. The first capacity is your capacity for pressure. How much weight can you carry for kingdom purposes? Because your assignment is going to come with pressure. Opposition, resistance, spiritual warfare, people misunderstanding you, people criticizing you, resources being tight while the vision is big. And the question wasn't whether you'd face pressure. The question was whether you could carry it without collapsing. Your test answered that question. Remember those moments when the pressure was so intense you thought you'd break, when everything was happening at once and you had no margin left? When one more thing would have been the thing that shattered you. You were right at your breaking point. But here's what matters. You didn't break. You bent. You stretched. But you didn't shatter. And in that moment, your breaking point became your new baseline. What almost destroyed you became the foundation of your strength. The pressure that nearly crushed you actually expanded your capacity to carry weight. And now, what would crush someone else is just Tuesday for you. You can handle pressure that would break people who haven't been through what you've been through. That capacity is permanent, chosen one. You built spiritual muscle that can't be lost, and your assignment is going to require every ounce of it. The second capacity is your capacity for mystery. Can you trust God when you can't trace Him? Can you follow when you can't see the path? Can you obey when the instruction doesn't make sense? Because your assignment is going to involve mystery. seasons when God's plan isn't clear, moments when His timing seems off, situations where His methods don't match your expectations. Your test measured whether you could function in mystery without demanding clarity, whether you could trust His character when you couldn't understand His plan, whether faith in the dark was real faith or just optimism dependent on favorable circumstances. You passed that measurement. You stayed faithful when heaven was silent. You kept moving when the next step wasn't visible. You trusted when trusting felt like stepping off a cliff with no ground in sight. That wasn't blind faith. That was mature faith. The kind of faith that says, I don't need to understand the plan because I know the planner. I don't need to see the path because I know the guide. That capacity for mystery is rare. Most people need certainty to move. They need the whole staircase visible before they'll take the first step. But you learn to move in mystery, to take the step you can see without demanding to see the whole journey. And your assignment is going to require that capacity constantly. You'll be pioneering territory where there's no roadmap, following vision that others can't see yet, obeying instructions that won't make sense until you're 10 steps down the path. You're ready for that now. The test built that capacity in you. And the third capacity is your capacity for isolation. Can you stand alone if the assignment requires it? Can you be misunderstood without needing to defend yourself? Can you obey God even when everyone you love thinks you're wrong? Because your assignment might require you to stand alone, to be the only voice speaking truth in a room, to make decisions that separate you from people you care about, to pioneer something so new that nobody understands it yet. Your test measured that capacity. It put you in isolation that felt unbearable, cut you off from support systems you thought you'd always have, placed you in situations where you were the only one who saw what you saw, heard what you heard, felt what you felt. And the question was whether you could stand in that isolation without compromising, without conforming, without shrinking back to regain approval. You proved you could. You stood alone when standing alone was the hardest thing you'd ever done. You stayed true to what God showed you, even when nobody else could see it. You refused to shrink yourself to fit back into spaces you'd outgrown, just to ease the loneliness. That capacity for isolation transformed into something powerful. It became the ability to lead from the front, to be a voice, not an echo, to pioneer instead of just participate. And your assignment is going to require you to stand in places where you're the first, the only, the one bearing weight nobody else can see. You're ready for that now too. The test built it in you. Do you see what just happened? The test didn't break you, it built you. It wasn't measuring whether you were good enough. It was building capacity that didn't exist before. Capacity for pressure, capacity for mystery, capacity for isolation. The three capacities your specific assignment requires. And now that those capacities exist in you, now that the test expanded your spiritual container, something shifted, not just in what you can do, in who you are. That's the third revelation. The identity shift that occurred through the testing. Because you're not the same person who entered that season. Something fundamental changed in your core identity. And that identity shift determines everything about how you move forward. Let me show you who you became. You're not the same person who entered that test. I need you to receive that. Not as hype, not as exaggeration, as truth. Something fundamental shifted in your core identity. And that shift is permanent. Before the test, you were a potential carrier. After the test, you're a proven carrier. Before, you had untested authority. After, you have tested authority. And heaven recognizes the difference, even if you don't fully see it yet. Let me show you what changed. Let me name the identity shifts that occurred in you so you can recognize what you've become. The first shift is this: you moved from seeker to finder. Before the test, you were seeking God, hoping to find Him, reaching for Him. But during the test, something happened. You found Him in the darkness. You encountered Him in the silence. You met Him in the pressure. And what you find, you can't unfind. What you discover through lived experience becomes knowledge that can't be taken from you. You're not seeking anymore, chosen one. You're a finder. Someone who knows where to find God because you've found Him in the worst places. In the pit, in the prison, in the wilderness. You know how to access His presence now, not just in worship services when the music is right, but in the trenches when everything is wrong. That's a different kind of faith. That's a finder's faith. The second shift: you moved from learner to teacher. Before the test, you were accumulating knowledge, learning principles, studying scripture. But during the test, knowledge became experience. Theory became testimony, information became wisdom, and now you don't just know about the faithfulness of God, you know it firsthand, you've lived it. That transforms you into a teacher. Not someone who teaches from books, though books have value. Someone who teaches from scars, from lived experience, from the authority of having been there and survived there and learned there. Wounded healers are the most effective healers, chosen one. And your pain just became your pedagogy. Your test became your curriculum. What you suffered through, you can now guide others through. The third shift: you moved from dependent to interdependent. This one is subtle but crucial. Before the test, you were either overly dependent on people or trying to do everything alone. The test forced you into a different space. You learned to stand alone when necessary, to trust God without human props, to be okay in isolation. But you also learned you're not meant to do this alone. That healthy autonomy isn't the same as unhealthy isolation. That you can be strong and connected, independent and in community. You're interdependent now. You can stand alone when the assignment requires it. But you also know how to receive support when it's available. You're not codependent anymore, but you're not isolated either. You found the balance that most people never find. The fourth shift: you moved from hopeful to certain. Before the test, hope was beautiful. You hoped God would come through. You hoped He was faithful. You hoped He saw you. But hope, while beautiful, hasn't experienced proof yet. During the test, hope became certainty. You didn't just hope God would sustain you, you experienced His sustaining grace. You didn't just hope He was with you in the dark. You felt His presence when presence was all you had. And now, you're not hoping anymore. You're certain, not with arrogance, with settled assurance. You've seen God move. You've felt His hand. You've watched Him make ways where there were no ways. That's not theoretical faith anymore. That's experiential certainty. And when the next test comes, you won't be hoping He'll show up. You'll know He will, because He already has. The fifth shift: you moved from questioned to commissioned. Before the test, you questioned your calling, wondered if you heard God right, second-guessed the vision, asked if you were really supposed to do what you thought you were supposed to do. The test was intense enough that you questioned everything: your calling, your gifts, your worthiness, your hearing. But here's what happened. The test didn't destroy your calling. It confirmed it. The very fact that you went through what you went through, that you were tested at that level, that the pressure was that intense, confirms that you're called to something significant. God doesn't waste that kind of testing on someone without assignment. The test itself was the commission. You're not questioning anymore. You're commissioned, sent, authorized, assigned. The sixth shift. You moved from hidden to emerging. Before the test, you were hidden, in preparation, in the background, learning in obscurity. And that hiddenness was necessary. It was protection. It was covering. But the test marked the end of the hidden season. You passed. The preparation is complete. And now the covering is lifting. You're emerging. Not because you're pushing yourself forward. Because it's time. Because what was formed in hiddenness is now ready for visibility. You're emerging into your assignment, chosen one, into your platform, into your influence, into your voice. The hidden season is over. Emergence isn't about ego, it's about obedience. It's about stewarding what was formed in you during the hidden years. You're emerging because heaven is releasing you to emerge. And the seventh shift. You moved from survivor to thriver. This is the one that matters most. During the test, you were in survival mode. Just trying to make it through. Just trying to last one more day. Just trying to not quit. And survival was right for that season. But you didn't just survive, chosen one. You passed. And passing moves you from defensive to offensive, from enduring to advancing, from surviving to thriving. You're not in survival mode anymore. You're positioned to thrive, to flourish, to expand, to advance the kingdom, instead of just defending your position in it. Thrivers don't just endure pressure, they leverage it. They don't just survive isolation, they use it for depth. They don't just get through tests, they get transformed by them and then transform others with what they learned. That's who you are now, a thriver, not someone barely holding on, someone who's been through fire and came out refined, stronger, clearer, more focused, more powerful. Do you see the shift? Do you recognize yourself in these transformations, from seeker to finder, from learner to teacher, from dependent to interdependent, from hopeful to certain, from questioned to commissioned, from hidden to emerging, from survivor to thriver? These aren't aspirational identities, these are actual realities. The test didn't just reveal these qualities in you, it formed them, built them, established them as permanent parts of who you are now. You're not who you were, chosen one. And trying to go back to your old identity would be like a butterfly trying to crawl back into the cocoon. You've been transformed. The metamorphosis happened, and what emerged is ready for flight. But here's where it gets even more significant. These identity shifts aren't just about you feeling different. They're about heaven recognizing you differently. About you carrying different authority. About you being authorized for different assignments. That's the fourth revelation, the one that changes everything. Because all of this, the transformation, the capacity building, the identity shift, it was all for something. It was all preparing you for your primary assignment, the one you were born for, the one everything in your life has been leading toward. And now that you've passed, now that you're proven, now that you're transformed, it's time to understand what that assignment actually is. Time to see the territory you're authorized for. Time to recognize the authority you now carry. This final revelation is going to reframe everything you thought you understood about your calling. Stay with me. Here's the truth that changes everything. The truth you've been waiting for. The truth that only makes sense now that you've walked through everything you've walked through. You didn't just pass a test, you passed the test. The test that qualifies you for your primary assignment. Everything before this was preparation. Everything after this is activation. Let me explain what I mean. Your life has had multiple small assignments, things you've done for the kingdom, ways you've served, gifts you've operated in, and all of that mattered. But there's one central assignment you were born for, one primary purpose that everything in your life has been leading toward, one specific territory God designed you to bring light to. And the test you just passed, that was the qualifying exam for that assignment. Not everyone gets this test, chosen one. Only those with this specific assignment. Only those being prepared for this specific territory. The test itself proves the assignment exists. You don't get tested at that level for a small calling. You get tested at that level because what you're being released into requires exactly what the test built in you. So, the question becomes, how do you recognize your primary assignment? How do you identify the territory you're authorized for? Let me give you 5 markers that will help you see it clearly. The first marker is territory recognition. What breaks your heart, breaks God's heart for that specific area. Your burden equals your assignment territory. This isn't about what you think should burden you or what burdens other people. This is about what actually won't leave you alone. What issue, what injustice, what need keeps surfacing in your awareness, no matter how much you try to focus on something else. Think about Nehemiah. He heard about the broken walls of Jerusalem and couldn't stop thinking about them, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on his comfortable position in the palace. The burden became consuming. That burden was his assignment. Think about Esther. She saw her people endangered and couldn't stay silent even when silence was safer. The burden to act became stronger than the fear of consequences. That burden was her assignment. What won't leave you alone, chosen one? What issue keeps surfacing? What need keeps pulling at you? That's not random. That's your territory. The test qualified you to bring light there. The second marker is authority recognition. You have unusual authority in specific areas, not positional authority given by a title. Spiritual authority earned through obedience and testing. When you speak about certain topics, people sense weight. When you minister in certain areas, breakthrough happens. When you operate in certain territories, darkness moves. Pay attention to where your words carry unusual impact. Where do people say, "I've heard that truth before, but when you said it, something shifted"? Where do you see fruit that's disproportionate to your effort? That's your authority zone. That's where the test built tested authority in you. Authority that even darkness recognizes because you earned it through fire. The third marker is passion alignment. Your deepest joy aligns with your assignment. This isn't drudgery. This isn't obligation. When you move in your primary assignment, something comes alive in you. You feel energized, not drained, fulfilled, not exhausted. This is what you were made for, and your spirit knows it. Frederick Buechner said, "Your calling is where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need." What makes you come alive when you're serving others? What fills you with joy even when it's hard work? That's assignment fuel, chosen one. That's the passion God wired into you specifically for this territory. The fourth marker is preparation, confirmation. Your entire history prepared you for this. Nothing was wasted. Every season taught you skills your assignment requires. Every wound gave you empathy for the people you'll serve. Every victory gave you faith for the battles you'll face. I want you to do something in your mind right now. Think back over the last 5 major seasons of your life. What did each season teach you? What skills did you develop? What character did you build? Now look at how those seasons converge, how they create one unique skill set that only exists in you because of your specific journey. That convergence isn't coincidence. That's assignment preparation. You've been equipped for something specific, and the test was the final piece of that equipment. The 5th marker is supernatural confirmation. God confirms primary assignments repeatedly, not just once, multiple times, through multiple streams. There's an internal witness, the Spirit's voice speaking to your spirit. There's external confirmation, prophetic words from people who don't know each other saying similar things. And there's circumstantial alignment, doors opening you didn't knock on, provision appearing for that specific direction, opportunities that match the assignment. When all three align, when the internal witness, the external confirmation, and the circumstantial alignment all point the same direction, that's not coincidence. That's divine confirmation. Not every good idea is God's idea. Not every open door is your door. But when all three streams confirm the same assignment, move. That's your primary territory. That's what the test prepared you for. Now, here's what you need to understand about the authority you carry now. The test didn't just reveal your assignment. It authorized you for it. You carry 3 types of authority that you didn't carry before. First, you carry tested authority. This is different from untested authority. Before the test, you had potential authority. After the test, you have proven authority. There's a spiritual reality here that matters. In Acts chapter 19, the 7 sons of Sceva tried to cast out demons using Jesus' name and Paul's name. The demon responded, "Jesus, I know, and Paul I recognize, but who are you?" And then it overpowered them. Why did the demon recognize Paul but not them? Because Paul had tested authority. He'd been through fire. He'd proven faithful under pressure. He'd paid the price of obedience. The spiritual realm recognizes that. Your authority isn't theoretical anymore, chosen one. It's proven. You've been through the test. Darkness recognizes tested vessels. Second, you carry resurrection authority. Something died in your test. Your old identity, your self-reliance, your need for control, your fears. But something also resurrected. Your true identity, your God-reliance, your surrender, your faith. Paul wrote about this in Philippians chapter 3. He said he wanted to know Christ and the power of his resurrection. Resurrection power isn't just about Jesus rising from the dead. It's about you experiencing death to self and resurrection to new life. And once you've walked through that death to life journey, you carry resurrection frequency. You can speak life into dead situations because you've lived the death and resurrection yourself. Your testimony carries resurrection power. Third, you carry commissioning authority. You're not just allowed to move in your assignment. You're sent. There's a difference. Permission means you can if you want to. Commission means you must because you're assigned. Jesus said it like this in John chapter 20, verse 21. "As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." Sent with backing, sent with authority, sent with resources. You're not going alone into your assignment, chosen one. You're going commissioned. And commissioned assignments have heaven's backing. Resources flow to obedience. Doors open for the sent ones. Provision meets you in motion. You passed the test. You're qualified for the assignment. You're authorized with tested authority, resurrection authority, and commissioning authority. This isn't hype. This is reality. This is what the last season was building toward. This is why the test was so intense. This is what you were born for. Now, the question becomes, what do you do with this revelation? How do you step into what you just discovered? Let me give you 3 immediate next steps you can take right now. The first step is this: receive your identity. Stop arguing with what God says about you. I know there's a voice in your head that wants to minimize this, that wants to say, but I'm not really that transformed, or but I still have so much to work on. That voice isn't humility. That's false humility. True humility is accepting what God says about you and stewarding it well. So, here's what I want you to do. In your mind, right now, I want you to speak these words internally. Not out loud if you're driving or in public, but in your spirit, declare this: I am a finder. I am a teacher. I am interdependent. I am certain. I am commissioned. I am emerging. I am a thriver. Let those identity statements settle into your spirit. And if you want to anchor this, when this video ends, type activated in the comments. Just that one word. It's a declaration that you're receiving who God says you are. Identity precedes assignment, chosen one. You can't walk in what you won't receive. And receiving isn't arrogance. Receiving is obedience. You're not making yourself big. You're accepting what the test already made you. The second step: identify your territory. I gave you 5 markers earlier. Territory recognition, authority recognition, passion, alignment, preparation, confirmation, supernatural confirmation. Now, I want you to use them. In your mind, right now, as I ask these questions, let the answers surface. Don't force them. Just notice what comes up. What breaks your heart that you can't stop thinking about? What issue keeps surfacing no matter how you try to focus elsewhere? Let that answer come. Where do your words carry unusual weight? Where do you see breakthrough when you speak or minister? Let that answer come. What makes you come alive when you're serving others? What fills you with joy even when it's hard work? Let that answer come. Look back over your life. What has everything been preparing you for? What skill set emerged from all your seasons converging? Let that answer come. What has God confirmed repeatedly through multiple streams? What keeps showing up as confirmation? Let that answer come. Your primary assignment is becoming clear, isn't it? Maybe not every detail, but the territory is emerging. The direction is clarifying. Don't demand the whole staircase. Just receive the next step that's visible. The third step: take one obedience step. Not all the steps, just the next one. God gives progressive revelation. You don't get the whole map at once. You get the next move, and your obedience to what you know unlocks what you don't know yet. So in your mind, ask yourself, what's the one thing I know I need to do next? Not the big vision, not the 10-year plan. The immediate next step of obedience. Is it reaching out to someone? Starting something small? Ending something that's misaligned? Saying yes to an opportunity? Saying no to a distraction? What's the one next thing? Whatever just came to mind, that's your starting point. You don't need to figure out step 5 when you haven't taken step 1. Start small. Stay faithful. God multiplies obedience. He doesn't multiply procrastination or perfectionism. He multiplies faithful action on what you can see right now. Now, let me address 3 obstacles that might be rising in your mind. 3 voices that might be trying to undermine what you just received. The first voice says, "But I still feel unqualified." I hear you. But here's the truth. Passing the test doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're qualified by the test, not for perfection. God uses cracked vessels on purpose. Paul said it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. Your weakness doesn't disqualify you. It showcases His strength. You're qualified by what the test built in you, not by your flawless execution. Stop waiting to feel ready. You're as ready as you need to be for the next step. The second voice says, "But I don't see provision yet. I don't see the resources for this assignment." Here's what you need to understand. Provision follows obedience, not the other way around. Abraham didn't see the land before he left Ur. The disciples didn't see multiplication before they gave the 5 loaves. The widow didn't see oil before she started pouring. Move in faith and resources meet you in motion. God doesn't fund your comfort, He funds your obedience. Take the step you can see and watch how what you need appears as you need it, not before, as. The third voice says, "But what if I fail? What if I step out and fall flat?" Here's the truth about that fear. You won't fail the assignment itself. You might stumble in execution. That's called growth. You might make mistakes along the way. That's called learning. But failure isn't stumbling. Failure is refusing to try. Success in kingdom terms is faithful obedience to what you see. God handles the results. You handle the obedience. Let Him worry about the outcome. You focus on the next step. That's success. Now I want to pray with you. This isn't just a closing prayer. This is an activation prayer. A sealing of everything that was revealed today. If you're driving, stay safe. But let your spirit engage with these words. If you can, place your hand on your chest as a physical anchor of receiving. If you can't, that's fine. Just let the prayer land in your spirit. Father, we come with gratitude for the testing season. Thank you that the test wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Thank you for the pressure that built capacity we didn't have before. Thank you for the isolation that trained us to stand alone. Thank you for the mystery that deepened trust. We honor what we've been through because now we see what it produced. We receive who you say we are, not who we were before the test, who we became through it. We're proven vessels, tested carriers, commissioned messengers. We speak over ourselves. We are finders. We are teachers. We are interdependent. We are certain. We are commissioned. We are emerging. We are thrivers. We receive this reality as truth. We step into our primary assignment with clarity and courage. We embrace our territory. We steward our authority. We move in our passion. Everything in our history converges into this moment. We say yes to what you're releasing, yes to the assignment, yes to the responsibility, yes to the adventure. Activate in us what you've been preparing. Release the authority. Open the doors. Provide the resources. We're ready. Give us wisdom for the next step. We don't need the whole staircase, just the next step. Give us discernment for decisions, clarity for choices, courage for obedience. Lead us day by day into the fullness of this calling. When we're uncertain, speak. When we're afraid, steady us. When we stumble, lift us. We trust your guidance. We seal this moment. We seal these revelations. We seal this commissioning. We passed. We're transformed. We're assigned. We're authorized. This isn't hype. This is truth. We walk out of this moment different than we walked in. The season of testing is complete. The season of activation has begun. We're ready, we're equipped, we're sent. And we will be faithful to what you've entrusted. In the name of Jesus. Amen. If this word landed in your spirit, type activated in the comments. Let that be your declaration, your agreement with what heaven just spoke over you. And share this message with someone you know who just emerged from their testing season. They need to hear this too. Walk well, chosen one. You passed. Everything you need for what comes next is already inside you. The test built it. The revelation confirmed it. Now go. You're released.